So I didn't really intend to do this. When I put out my video on The Wire seasons 1 to 3, I just kind of wanted to put something out there to document my thoughts on it because it's a show that a lot of people care about. It's one of those prestige television shows, and I don't know, I just wanted to put some thoughts out there. But a lot of people said they'd want to, relatively a lot of people, because this is my second channel, it is a smaller audience, but people seemed interested, reached out to me on Twitter, on Discord, in the comments, talking about how I should make another one when season 4 is completed. And I said, I don't know if I'm going to do that. I don't know. I'll put thoughts on Twitter, is what I said, and we'll see. But immediately after finishing season 4, I'm about 12 hours. I saw it about 12 hours ago, and I understand why everyone was saying that now. Season 4 of The Wire is one of the best seasons of television I've ever seen, and I would put it up there with 10 to 12 favorite seasons of television that I've seen in my life, among those being Mad Men seasons 3, 4, and 5, Sopranos season 6, Breaking Bad 4 and 5, Better Call Saul 6, Succession season 4, Black Sails season 2 and 3, Andor in general, maybe. And if I'm being a bit more specific, Mad Men Season 5, Black Sails Season 3, Succession Season 4, Breaking Bad Season 5. It's up there to that standard. It is right up there with the best television I have ever seen. It is so gutting, so devastating, and I spent so much of it hoping for something that clearly wasn't going to happen, which was like, the series and the season does such a great job at using the foundation of the previous seasons to just make the most emotional premise for a season possible, bringing it back to the school, to the ground level, to the kids, and what is basically the root of the system that we are fighting against, or that the characters find themselves fighting against on either side, with good and bad on either side of that divide. It begins and ends with the kids. And so much of the systemic problems that cause this are the result of failing to realize that, or failing to properly value it, and therefore not prioritizing it properly. This season and what it does was such a masterstroke. Season 4 is widely celebrated. I think that from what I've seen, people tend to say that seasons 3 and 4 are the peak of The Wire. But I have seen a little bit of criticism for it from a vocal minority who thinks that it just drops the ball in every regard. It's absolutely bold, and I think because of that, it's going to alienate some people. But personally, I can't do anything but applaud it for its courage, its boldness, and everything that it achieves. It's just a masterstroke. I'm in total awe at it. What it made me feel, I'm gutted now. I will be gutted for weeks to come. And I need to, get to season 5 immediately to hopefully get some hope at the end of this. There is a bit of hope, but man, it is so sobering. The vast majority of it. Just to get into specifics, I don't know that I'm going to have this whole, last video I had this big Stringer Bell thing. I talked about him for 10, 15 minutes. I don't think I'll have that today. I think it'll be shorter, but just some general thoughts. Like I said, expanding things and going to the ground level with the kids, it feels like a no-brainer now that I've seen it, but it takes a lot of forethought and understanding and planning to be able to execute it in the way they did, and not to mention just quality, just incredible directorial, writing, and acting quality, because these kids, oh my gosh, the actors for Namond and Dookie and Randy and Michael, specifically, there are some others that do shine as well, but those four specifically knock it out of the park. It is unbelievable how quickly I adhered myself to them. They're all so great in so many different ways. They have common themes associated with all of them that are very obvious, and common ideas, and broken homes in different ways. Like, even just look at the different types of broken homes we have, and horrible upbringings we have. compare Naaman to Dookie to Randy to Michael, like, just different brands of horrible. But they all have this common cause, right? They all have this common thread. And you just hope against hope that it won't turn out how you fear it would. And 3 out of 4, there's some positives for Dookie, but it ultimately ends with a hammer blow when you see him at the corner. You're put in Prez's situation when you see him there. It's so gutting. It's so awful. As he's left with Michael, who I think is probably the best written. I don't know which is my favorite of the 4 kids. I love them all, more or less equally. I don't know who is my favorite. But if I'm saying from a pure writing perspective, I think Michael's probably the best written. Just because of all that he goes through and how it's reflected in this dark descent. And yet he still doesn't seem to lose sight of what he's doing this for, but that could come in season 5, I'm not sure. Anyways, the kids, unbelievable. And the way it elevates characters that I felt were pretty strong, but it elevates them in ways that I didn't even imagine could happen. Prez is straight up one of my favorite characters, borderline top 5. Like, I adore everything they did with Prez in this season. It was unbelievable. And having him be the sort of bridge between us and the kids, between the world we know and the kids, and him having his specific police lens to view those issues, and the kids kind of like making fun of him and clowning on him, and it being like, ooh, this is rough, but slowly and surely him reaching out to them because he's simply a good person that cares for them. In spite of what he's done in the past, I love that it is so prevalent, this idea of turning things around, because he does. I truly think Prez is a good person, a very good person, a compassionate person, and the type of person the world needs, and The Wire needs. And I wouldn't have been saying that about him early in season 1, God, I love Prez. I love his connections with all the kids, especially Dookie. My God. And then the hammer blow when he sees Dookie on the corner. It's beyond fiction to me. It speaks to so much. It speaks to so much about life in general. I'm tearing up thinking about it. This season in general, I got emotional at moments for sure in the first 3 seasons. Moments with Stringer and Avon. Moments with Colvin, with Bunny. But my God, every episode was devastating and heart-filling, but also heartbreaking in some ways. They just ramped up the emotions incredibly in this season. So Prez, amazing. And on the common theme of turning your life around, turning things around, improving, and looking for a proper direction for yourself in life and trying to be the change you want to see in the world, Carver, oh my God. It's something they do with Carver and Herc is so genius, because Herc, something you might not know about me, but a lot of people do, but maybe you don't, is that I don't often hate fictional characters. I don't hate fictional characters. If a character is hateable, then I often think of it from in the moment, obviously I'll act emotionally, but I often look at it from a detached perspective when the dust settles, once the emotions calm down, and I can appreciate it. And so, for example, I look at Griffith Berserk, and this guy does horrible, hateable things that made me devastated in the moment, but I feel nothing but appreciation for the character. I don't hate him, even though he did hateable things and evil things. But once in a while, I do experience, in moments, while I'm experiencing a story, genuine hate. It happened in Umi Neko, it happened in Better Call Saul, and I don't hate fictional characters, but on rare occasions, I genuinely do feel that visceral anger. I felt that through The Wire so many times. Season 4, specifically. A lot to do with Senator Davis. That guy is a fucking slime ball, my God. But he's so great in his role. But specifically, back on topic, Herc. Oh, the way he just consistently ignores Bubbles. And I do have a bit of sympathy. It's not black and white. He's not an evil person. He's not an evil, simplistic villain for which there's no nuance at all, because this is a really well-written show. But in spite of everything, he's just a he's just kind of a clown, and he's always been that way, but it was tinged with genuine malevolence to me because of the sheer lack of broader thinking of the implications of his actions, how careless he is in throwing. He's the reason. It's a multifaceted plot. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that he's the reason that Randy is, to this day, to the end of season 4, vilified as a snitch. Beat up, bullied, everyone hates him because he's a snitch, and because Herc, I think, in the questioning of little Kevin, I believe, was careless enough to let that out and not bring it to Bunk as well, before Bunk could handle it. And then the way he just completely just forgets about Bubbles, when Bubbles is literally fighting for his livelihood, fighting for his survival every day. And the sheer privilege that he experiences in going, yeah, tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow, and multiple times just doesn't show up when he's supposed to help Bubbles with this guy who is terrorizing him. The anger I felt towards Herc, my god, man. But it's so beautifully written. Herc's a great character, because him and Carver start out in a very similar spot in season 1, and they really diverge, because Carver and what he tries to do with these kids, his connection with Cuddy, his connection with Colvin, how Colvin has this impact on him. Oh my god, it's so beautiful. And then how he consistently tries to reach out to the kids. He gives Naaman a chance. He genuinely tries to literally take in Randy when he has nowhere to go, and then does this Walter White season 1, pounding on his steering wheel, screaming in his car, much different context, of course, when he realizes what's going to happen to Randy and how powerless he was in the face of these systemic issues. Carver and Prez both have very, very fantastic ascendant character arcs that I connected with so much. Colvin and the, I don't know what the program's called, but Colvin and how he tries to reach out to the kids through playing, thinking outside of the box and playing outside of the rules. He did that in season 3 with Hamsterdam. He does the same thing in the school system, and in both situations, he's just left devastated and can't help but just laugh at how absolutely backwards the world is, that he can't just do the right thing because of the red tape. I do think that Hamsterdam is not quite that simple. I think that's more of a nuanced issue, but that's generally the broad strokes. It's just beautiful. Him in season 3 and 4, he continues to be one of the best characters in the show. He's still top 3, maybe second favorite. He's really inching forward to, he's at least third, maybe second. I'll give you a top 10 or so at the end of the video. But loved Colvin here. Loved Garcetti. Oh, Garcetti's great in season 3. I think he's really good. But there's one scene in particular at the beginning of season 4 where he thinks he's just going to lose the election, and he's playing Battleship with his daughter, and he's talking to his assistant, and I forget his name, forgive me, but he says, that battle I've lost, I still got a chance in this one, and this is the one that really matters. When he's just playing with his daughter. He's late for all his appointments for his campaigning, but that doesn't matter nearly as much as the battle he had then, just playing with his daughter. Like that, that spoke to me so much. That made me feel so much for him. All his flaws, everything, and it made me root for him, and it made episode 6 very emotional when he did win. And when he ultimately shuffled off Teresa's advances. Now, he's sort of, it seems like he's starting to get that feeling of losing himself within the politics. Things are kind of headed towards that direction, and his assistant did get upset at that. But I do hold hope that he will be able to stave that off and hold true to what he wants to do. Now, I don't mean to say he's a paragon. He's very flawed in lots of ways. But I think if you're looking at the type of people you need and the type of mentality you need in this world, in this setting, the philosophies that Garcetti had, I think, are needed. I think they're needed, and so I hope he stays true to them. Cuddy was really, really good as well. Who did I say? Prez, Carver, Cuddy, Herc. Bubbles, I don't have much to say about Bubbles. It's just a true tragedy, and a lot of things in season 5 I hope there's an ascent for. I hope there's an ascent for Bubbles. I hope there's an ascent for some of the kids, because anyway, there's so much to say. Let me just talk a little bit more about the characters. But Bubbles was fantastic, and my heart goes out to him. And specifically, I think McNulty taking a backseat was great. It was really good to see him in this role where I'm not constantly anxious because of him, or he's not constantly getting on my nerves and like, come on, man, get your shit together. He has it together, but he's taken a very deliberate backseat. No drinking, nothing. Great for him, very happy for him, but at the same time, he is one of those people who has his eye on the prize, knows what change should be enacted, but for his own health, for his own sake, he's had to get himself away from the game. And so there are lots of situations in which I was kind of wishing he was there. But that's intentional. I think it's a really great season for McNulty, and he's used in moderation very well. Bunk is a bit more active this season. Bunk was amazing. I loved Bunk. And Bodhi, oh man. It kind of stuck up on me. Bodhi, kind of in a lot of ways, I think a lot of D'Angelo gets carried forth in Bodhi, and you can kind of feel what's going on there. You can feel a continuity there. And so McNulty, I think, reaching out to him was beautiful in a lot of ways, but at the same time made me... I think there's a bit of a naivete and a lack of broader thinking and a lack of knowledge, because McNulty doesn't know how cutthroat the Stanfield Organization is, so that him picking him up, making it look like they're collaborating and all this stuff, and maybe it would have led to that, I don't know. But regardless, it was a naive move, I think, for someone who would have been in tune with what's going on. But the thing is, he was out of the loop. He had taken a backseat. He wasn't locked into what the Stanfield Organization was, and he was a little lacking in recent details. And so that ended up costing Bodhi the ultimate price. Bodhi's one of my favorites as well. It's just such a gutting end, and it just makes you think, like, when is this going to end? But at the same time, I think it has to. If this wants to be the scathing commentary on the systemic issues in society, particularly Baltimore specifically, but grander society, it has to be unrelenting. It has to be grim. It has to be gutting, and it has to make you feel devastated. It has to be a tragedy, because that's honest. Seeing what happened to Randy was so upsetting. Literally having, and it's so, again, so bold to have one of the most sympathetic characters, a kid, ending the season beat up because in a foster home that has no care for him, no warmth, after he's taken from his own foster home that did have that warmth, because his foster mother was grievously injured in a fire, in arson. It's so utterly unfair. Michael, the details around Michael, like I said, I think he's the best written, probably. The details behind him and Bug's father, and how he cares for Bug, and for all of that, just descends deeper and deeper. So incredibly gutting. I'm interested to see where he goes. I hope the kids are revisited. I really hope so. I don't expect it to be expanded upon a lot, but I want to see just a little bit more to see what happens. And then Dookie, like I said, his connection with Prez, unreal, unbelievable. But then him being forced to live with Michael, and then how that, you could see that leading into him being on the corner. Just one of the most gutting moments in recent history for me, and anything I've experienced, is Dookie on the corner. This bright, intelligent, beautiful soul. The type of young mind that deserves to be nurtured and fostered to be, in the decades to come, maybe a mind that can stop this rot because of the systemic issues, forced to become part of the problem. I really hope that Dookie has some sort of happy ending. Not happy, but like, it changes from that. Get him off the street. And then Weebay, unexpectedly great. You know, Naaman's mom is a horrific character. My God, I hated her as well. Just horrific. But Weebay, really loved the little details he had in the season. Bodhi was great. And then, am I forgetting anyone? Because I do want to get to a grander point. Let's get to the Stanfield Organization. Just really, to quickly give my thoughts on that, I feel like Marlo is really an enigma, and it's in the littlest details that are really rich where you can find the beauty of the character. At this moment, I don't know how to put together his character. I don't know quite how to feel about him, but he's fascinating. And I hope that Season 5 gives me the sort of payoff to put it all together and fully view him as a masterful character that I think he could potentially be building up to be. But I just have puzzle pieces right now. We'll see where it goes, but I think it's really great build-up, really fantastic build-up. Specifically, I think he is someone who, in continuity from the Barksdale Organization, the Barksdale Organization was very humanized. In the end, I think, was made very sympathetic in Season 3, but it's thrown into sharp relief. Season 3, 2, and 1. There's lots of humanity in there, despite the cold brutality and the horribleness within it. I think the Barksdale Organization is very much built up to be more or less the other side of the coin from the police, basically. And the quote-unquote protagonists on that side of McNulty and Kima and Lester and Daniels and everything. But it's all thrown into sharp relief when we have the Stanfield Organization, because the Stanfield Organization is a cold machine of brutality and ruthlessness, and in my opinion, evil. I think that they are so inhuman as an entity, built from very human building blocks, but as an entity, they are so inhuman, they are so cutthroat and machine-like and brutal, reflecting Marlo. And it throws into sharp relief how sympathetic I think the Barksdale Organization is, because you have these connections between McNulty and Stringer, for example, that feels a lot more common ground, despite McNulty not even knowing him, than anything with the Stanfield Organization. You have McNulty reaching out to Bodhi. You have D'Angelo, you know. At this moment, I actually find Chris to be a slightly better character than Marlo, just because I think I'm waiting for the payoff for Marlo, but I think Chris is fantastic. I think there's a lot you can get from the little details, and the moment he destroyed Bug's father, it spoke so loudly. You know what's going on there, and it hits so hard, and once again nails in the ideas of this cyclical, systemic rot that is not seeming to go anywhere. And Chris kind of takes Michael under his wing. It's just it's so horrible. But Marlo's fascinating. Like I said, I feel I have building blocks, and I feel what I have is a character who is unbending, ruthless, very pragmatic, in an extent even different to Stringer. Now, I don't doubt that there's heart there, but it's very difficult to see. I just think there are lots of little details. I think he's, like I said, very unbending, and in that way, I think a little bit juvenile. I think that what he ends up doing, taking all these kids under his wing, calling Randy a snitch, putting out the word on a 14-year-old, I don't know how old he is, 14, 15, he's a young high school kid, that he's a snitch. Evil, man, evil. Knowing what that's going to cause, genuine evil thing that Marlo does there. But what is it? As he sits on the playground and people come to him and he does these deals and he manipulates and brings in people like Michael and Dookie, and Bodhi, get off my corner or work for me. It's very school ground bully to me. I think Marlo is quite juvenile, maybe a little bit stuck in a childish mindset that is unbending. So I do wonder when he does reach a moment where he finds himself against a hurdle that is greater than anything he faced, will he just crack? Will he just crumble? I don't know. But he feels unbending, and people who are unbending sometimes do that. So we'll see. I think we saw a glimpse of that when Omar stole from him. He really, you could tell, he couldn't really compute what was going on to him. You see the scene with the security guard. Where, what does he say? He says, sorry, I've just been talking about this with Fiji. And Fiji gave me the quote. He says, you want it to be one way, but it's the other way. That is such a loaded line and feels very childlike. I think it harkens back to a lot of things he must have experienced in his childhood, and Fiji told me this. It's very true. He's a thematic antithesis. So much of this story has been understanding that maybe both sides of the divide are not too different. Maybe a common ground and an understanding could be the way forward to break this. A common understanding, reaching out to one another, compromising to understand the systemic issues that have caused this, and trying to find a way forward that's mutually beneficial, while, of course, tackling the main issue, which is the children. That's what this series is reaching for. A lot of the main characters in the series that are the closest thing to a thesis for the series, that's what they're reaching for. Marlo is the opposite, because what the security guard asked for is, he's reaching for a compromise. Marlo has no compromise. He is unbending. He wants things his way. He's just this dark force of nature that will have everything bend to his own will. He wants everything his way. And he says you want it one way, but it's the other way. But it's the other way feels very loaded to me. And I wonder if it harkens back, like I said, to maybe some sort of trauma. Maybe he learned that the world is this way, that it simply cedes to power and cruelty and cutthroat brutality. And so he decided maybe he was the victim of that in the past. And the show doesn't need to spell this out. I think you can imply this even if we don't learn anything about him as a kid or when he was growing up. I think that's just something that can easily be implied because of the setting. But you want things to be one way, but it's the other way. Maybe that's something he learned as a cruel lesson when he was a kid, and something that he's imposing. Maybe he didn't want to feel the weakness he felt, the vulnerability he felt, so he harnessed the other way that he learned the world was and imposes it on others to feel like he is on top. But it's also very juvenile. You want it this way? No. It's a very simple rebellion against authority. That's very childlike. It's really fascinating. It's an appeal to his own power. It's him saying, I'm on top. But what happens when that crumbles? We saw glimpses of it. I wonder what'll happen in Season 5. But as crushing as all this is, Marlo's still on top. He's indoctrinated Michael, Dookie's in, Randy's in hell. Carver is despairing, Prez is despairing as he keeps trying, but there are still defeats, quote-unquote. Colvin. But there is hope, I think. There is a glimmer of hope, because we have Namond taken in by Colvin. He gets the life that he deserves to get. That he got out of the streets. And I think that means something. That's not insignificant. Yes, it's a glimmer. Yes, it's only one out of the 4 main kids. It is a change. It is someone who was there in the game who got out. And I know that Colvin's going to do everything he can to ensure that he stays out. And I think that means a lot. And McNulty, in honor of Bodhi, I think is going to go back to his job, back in the game, with a renewed vision. Hopefully not in a way that won't cause him to lose himself in quite the same way, and enact some change. So I think there is hope. We'll see how it ends. We'll see how it goes. I can't wait for Season 5. I'm going to start it today. I know it's a shorter season, so I'm going to try to binge it pretty quickly, assuming I can, because sometimes The Wire has these episodes that you have to reflect on for a while. But I've heard a lot of things about Season 5. I've heard that it's the worst season from a lot of people, by quite a margin. I don't know. It's got a pretty scathing reputation in comparison to the rest of them. People often compare it to Season 2, in my experience, but even still say Season 2 is better. I've heard a lot that it's the worst season. However, 2 or 3 people whose tastes I align with have said that, in their opinion, Season 5 is one of the greats. It's the best or second best, and concludes the series beautifully. And if I'm being honest, without knowing this sort of thing, I would have nothing but encouragement for Season 5. I think it sets things up beautifully, for all the reasons I've talked about. Also, I haven't mentioned Omar. Really, really loved his duel with Marlo. And he is a bit of a shining light at the end, though I don't think we've seen the last of him. I don't know. But loved Omar as well. Anyways, I'm really excited about Season 5. I'm really can't wait to see where it goes. There's 10 episodes left, and I'm going to enjoy every bit of it. I'm not expecting it to be perfect. Even the people who love Season 5 have said there's flaws to me. But I just can't imagine it disappointing me, you know? I just have so much trust in these writers and the vision they have, and Baltimore as a vision, as it all comes together and you see the full idea. I can't wait to see the final puzzle piece in Season 5, and I'm just really excited for it. So, in spite of its reputation, I'm looking forward to it so much. Thank you so much for joining me. Let me just rattle off a top 10, or top 12 or so. I think my number 1 is still Stringer. I would honestly be very shocked if he's not number 1 by the end of the series. Stringer's my favorite, but we'll see how it goes. Number 2, I think, is 2 and 3 is Omar and Colvin. I don't know the order. 2 and 3, Omar and Colvin, tied for number 2. Number 4 is probably Avon. Really love Avon. I think Avon's a great counterpart to Stringer, and says so much about the series. I mean, you guys know Avon. He's fantastic. I think he's grown really well on me. Number 5, I think, is probably McNulty. I love this season for him, and I'm so encouraged to see where he goes. Number 6, probably Prez. I adored him. He's one of my favorite characters. He's one of the best characters and one of the hearts of the series. 7, probably D'Angelo. I think D'Angelo continues to echo and be a very, very effective character down the line. Number 8, I think, is Carcetti, one of the best characters in the series, I think. I've talked about him. Still hanging on to the top 10, but someone whose greatness was in Season 1 and hasn't quite been the same, and I think will fall out of the top 10 eventually, is Daniels. Still think he's a fantastic character, but I feel like the show has moved on from him being prominent. We'll never forget him in Season 1. I think he's a star. But just, this cast is so good, and he's just taken a back seat. But I still really like his role. It's just more tertiary than secondary to primary as it was before. So Daniels is probably number 9. I think Carver's number 10. I really love Carver. Bubbles and Bodhi, 11 and 12 in some order. And then there's some characters like Wallace, still love Wallace, Frank Sabatka, Cuddy, Lester. Oh, there's the kids too. The kids are in and around 10 to 12. This cast is too good. Bonk made a big rise up. There's too many. Anyway, hopefully that's some semblance of a ranking for you. Anyways, I gotta go stream. I have a stream today, and I've gone over time. I thought this would be a 15-minute video. It wasn't. Thank you so much for listening. Don't know if I'll do a video on Season 5. I really don't know. But join the Discord if you want. I'll share thoughts in there. Follow me on Twitter. I'll put thoughts on there. Maybe see you for another one for The Wire. Not sure. We'll see. Thank you guys so much.